Welcome to the JBJ Management Podcast. And today our guest is the CEO of DFW Airport, Sean Donohue. Sean, thank you for being here today.
Great to be here, Willis.
I'm always confused about rankings. What's the ranking of DFW Airport? And maybe you can give me 3 or 4 different rankings of
Sure.
where DFW is.
Sure. In terms of passengers,
Okay.
3rd busiest airport in the world. And Atlanta's number 1, Dubai's number 2, and DFW's number 3. There's one other common measurement in aviation besides passengers, and that's takeoffs and landings, number of operations. We're actually number 3 in the world there, behind Atlanta, and actually O'Hare has more operations than we do, but they have a lot of the small regional jets, and so we carry more passengers than O'Hare. And then also received the question recently, how big is the airport geographically? And, we've always talked about, I don't really talk about it that much, but people still do, that we're bigger than the island of Manhattan at 17,000 acres. But we're, I think, the 4th largest airport in the world in terms of our geographic footprint.
Yeah, because I look at life like runways. I'm on a LaGuardia runway. These young guys are on a DFW runway. Because you can taxi forever. I mean, I don't know how long your runways are, but it does make you a big airport. How does Love Field compare, or conflict with DFW Airport?
Love Field is clearly, and DFW complement each other. I don't view Love as a competitor, and I don't think my colleague who runs Love views DFW as a competitor. And, we're here to serve the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and in both airports, I believe, do a great job with that. But they're really, really unique airports, and they're different. Southwest obviously dominates Love. American obviously dominates DFW. Southwest, for the most part, transports customers between point A and point B, and that's the majority of their traffic. At DFW, 60% of the customers never arrive or depart DFW. If you think of it from coming in a car,
Wow.
60% connect. So DFW to American is this enormous connecting hub where people fly from Fresno to DFW to get on an American flight from DFW to London. So we're 2 really, really different airports. But to answer your question, I absolutely believe we complement each other.
But that was also, as you shared with our team, one of the kind of the aha moments is that what DFW actually means to the area. When Mike Rawlings was mayor, he talked about it being the number 1 economic development driver. And so, and you see that now.
I do.
In what areas do you see that that's the economic driver, DFW?
Well, there's a couple. I remember about a month after I started at DFW, Dale Petrosky, who runs the chamber, called me and said, Sean, I need you to meet with about 10 or 12 people. I can't tell you who they are. And you got to tell them how great DFW is. And I'd been there about a month. And so these people come into my conference room, tell about DFW, answer all their questions. And about a month later, Dale calls me and says, Toyota just announced they're moving their North American headquarters, and guess who you met with? So that was the first time I really understood how important DFW was as corporations looked in relocating here. And I believe frequently you will read DFW was maybe the 2nd or 3rd most important thing in their decision matrix when they decided to relocate to Dallas, because everybody and companies travel. The other piece of the economic story is, a lot of people ask me, how do you use tax money? We don't use any tax revenues. We get 0 tax revenues. We are completely self-sufficient. But we generate $5 billion annually in tax receipts that go to the surrounding communities
Wow.
and the state.
I don't know if people
So
know
we're a
that.
tax generator. We're not a tax user. And lastly, jobs. There are over 600,000 jobs associated with DFW Airport.
At DFW Airport.
Associated. So
Correct.
directly, indirectly, that doesn't mean 600,000 work at the airport, but think of all the companies around the area that support American Airlines or support, construction companies that do work at the airport. And that equates to $38 billion in annual payroll.
You are one of the big leaders in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. I have two transportation questions, local, logistically. Have you had a conversation with Nadine Lee about how to get from downtown Dallas to DFW Airport expeditiously? It takes an hour.
I know.
What can we do with that, Sean?
I don't know, Willis. I wish I did. I used the example of Hong Kong when I was
Yeah.
talking to your employees, and the new Hong Kong airport is probably 30 miles outside of Kowloon, and they have a fast train that gets you there in, I think, 15 minutes.
Nonstop, clearly.
Nonstop. And, you've probably ridden the Heathrow Express in London.
Oh, my God.
Amazing product.
Yes.
I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not blaming Dart or Nadine. I mean, they have to provide service to as many communities and as many neighborhoods as possible, and therefore, to your point, there's a lot of stops between DFW and Dallas. We invested between building a station for Dart in Terminal A and building a station for
Right.
Trinity Metro in Terminal B. We invested almost $100 million of our own money to build those stations, and we're just not getting the ridership we'd like to see. And let's face it, it's also, North Texas is a culture of cars and trucks, and people like to use their own cars and trucks.
Yeah, because when I land, where's my car?
Right.
That's exactly what I
Right.
want.
But I would love, and I'm open to ideas on how we could get more people to take rail to DFW.
Finally, you're wrapping up the first 50. How are you preparing the next two generations for the next 50?
Right. Well, it's a great question. We're really focused between now and the end of the decade because we're delivering $9 billion worth of projects to keep growing DFW, to renovate DFW. But we also know that we have to look out 15, 20, 25, 30 years. We already know, for example, where the 7th terminal will be, and it's going to be adjacent to Terminal F. We already
I'm
know
doing my alphabets now. A, B, C, D, E, F, G?
probably.
Really?
We already know where the 8th runway will be.
Wow.
We've done a lot of the planning around those projects, and many, many other projects that will enable us to continue to grow. We thought we would get to 100 million customers by 2030. Now we're going to get there by 2027. So when you just do kind of the math and you look at the amazing economic growth of this region and how it will continue, we're very focused on what does DFW look like in the 2030s and 2040s, so we can continue to grow with the region and stay ahead of that growth.
Well, so part B to my last question, does that include high-speed rail connecting to DFW Airport? I've heard that.
I've heard it. I get this question a lot. Do I support high-speed rail, first of all, between Dallas and Houston?
Correct.
100%.
Got it.
When you think of all the flights between DFW and Houston, I'd rather have people take high-speed rail and be able to use those slots to have more flights internationally or whatever the case may be. It's not very efficient to fly between Dallas and Houston. High-speed rail would be far more efficient. Completely support it. I also support. If in phase 2 there's high-speed rail between Dallas and Fort Worth, I think that would be great. Completely support that. If there is an opportunity somehow to network DFW into that, we would absolutely support it.
Sean Donohue is the CEO of the third, fourth, depending on who you talk to, busiest, largest airport. But bigger than that, he's a leader in Dallas, and we appreciate it. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Willis.
You bet.